Thanks for staying on. Now, government has announced the rollout of strict new measures that will target public sector workers who fail to perform their duties but collect salaries. A compensation committee has already been established to audit the public sector workforce to ensure that employees are paid only for work done. The committee, made up of the Controller and Accountant General, the Finance Ministry and the head of the Public Service Commission, is expected to come up with financial clearance certificates before salaries are paid. Chairman of the committee and Deputy Finance Minister Keisha Latoforsen says the move will ultimately address redundancy in the public service and guarantee value for money.
If I see any impact, I think it will be beneficial to us as a country, in the sense that, for instance, my office as a deputy minister, I have 2 secretaries and a messenger. Mr. Chairman, the question is, do I need 2 secretaries or I need a messenger? I think an audit should be done for us to look at whether I need only 1 secretary and 1 messenger, so that the additional secretary probably will be deployed to that of the Controller and Accountant General's office. This is what we call rationalization of the public service. We are working closely with the Office of Head of Civil Service and the Public Services Commission.
There's growing concern about the rate at which some regional executives of the opposition New Patriotic Party in the Ashanti region are deserting their regional positions to contest the upcoming parliamentary primaries of the party. Now, 2 regional executives and 1 constituency chairman have so far filed their nominations to contest the primaries in the Asawase, Inshaeso and Offenso South constituencies, a decision some party bigwigs say amount to selfish interest. Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin has more in this report.
The Offenso South constituency chairman, Joe Salah, the deputy regional secretary, Manaf Ibrahim, and the regional organizer, Kennedy Kankam, are all interested in becoming the next parliamentary candidates for the Asawase and Inshaeso constituencies. Unconfirmed reports say other regional executives in other parts of the country have also filed their nominations. But Dr. Matthew Puku-Prempeh is unhappy about the move.
My heart bleeds so much when I hear that an executive, a constituency executive for that matter, a chairman, who just last year was campaigning to bring the constituency together, would resign just within a year to go and stand for MP. Well, but that is democracy. I support everywhere it has happened. I think the people, the constituents, the voters, the delegates will wear that chairman and that constituency's MP and realize that if the chairman goes to parliament and the next chairman comes to do the same, would it be nice? Probably not. But we are not in an era of niceties. We are in an era of selfishness. So people are thinking about themselves and themselves alone.
Dr. Puku-Prempeh, who was at the party office to file his nomination, spoke about efforts being made by the party to win more votes in the 2016 general elections.
We in Malaysia South are going to work as hard as we can. Are going to knock on the various doors. Are going to take the bread and butter issues, like the corruption, like the Dudu, like the SADA issues, like the Jida issues, like the badges that are coming from Turkey that President promised in January that has never been delivered, like the total amount of money that has been wasted in a year on SADA is what we are going for in 3 years from World Bank.
Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin's report for Joy News.
Now, former Sports Minister Elvis Ifriankra is accusing the president of the Central University College, Professor Kwesi Yankah, of making erroneous and poor research remarks about him. Professor Yankah on Tuesday stated that the presidency has become a safe refuge for officials suspected to have been involved in corruption.
Perception of the presidency as merely a depository for reports that are only of archival value. The probe on the Maputo scandal that investigated Ghana's sordid participation in the All-Africa Games in 2011 should justifiably have been acted upon in all fairness to the taxpayer. Lessons from this probe in the area of corrupt procurement practices could alone have mitigated the Brazil scandal. For the perpetrators would have been serving jail terms or refunding stolen monies, serving as a deterrent to the Brazil gangsters. Indeed, there appears to be a pattern to all this. Whenever there's a public outcry against perceived corruption, the knee-jerk response has been the immediate setting up of a committee. And this is often meant as a tender pacifier hastily inserted into the mouth of a crying baby. And your baby, the good people of Ghana, will be surely put to sleep. By the time he wakes up from sleep, times have changed, front page headlines have also changed, and a new tournament in Equatorial Guinea has begun and ended, with absolutely no lessons learned from history. The Chairman, considering the perception that international sporting tournaments are often exploited as self-serving vehicles for embezzlement and the looting of state funds, public responses to Ghana's recent failed bid to host AFCON 2017 was rather revealing. Rather than exhibit patriotism by lamenting Ghana's failed attempt, the general public, on hearing the bad news, rather burst into days of muted jubilation. With our failed bid, a big channel for creating, looting, and sharing state property had indeed been sealed. God had heard the prayers of the poor taxpayer. Bishop, I mean. But there could be another reason for the perception of corruption in high places. The purchase of scores of luxury vehicles as part of national projects, most of which end up as personal property of government appointees, even when they are no longer in that portfolio. The use of a whopping $1.5 million in the purchase of luxury vehicles for a single electrification project could not have been comforting to the taxpayer. So long as this continues with impunity, the blame will be put at the door of the presidency. Next is the dismissal by the presidency of a titanic anti-corruption crusader who, from within the Attorney General's office years ago, blew the whistle on the legal payment of judgment debts to individuals with whom the government had no contract. For this patriotic act, he was fired.
Well, although Professor Yankah did not mention any name, Fmr Yankah, who was moved to the presidency following the World Cup scandal, says the comments were made in apparent reference to him. In a statement released yesterday by Mr. Yankah, the comments by Professor Yankah are unmeasured and undermines government's efforts at dealing with corruption. My colleague Fred Smith has a copy of this statement and has joined me in studio with more on this. So, Fred, what does this statement say?
Well, Mr. Yankah in this statement says the Prof's comments are misleading. He also questions Professor Yankah's meticulousness in researching the issues before he made those remarks. And he, in his own words, the comments are unmeasured and undermines government efforts at dealing with corruption. He did not stop there. He went on to say that the Prof erred in his remarks directed at him, and he says he provided some evidence to claim innocence as far as the allegation of corruption is concerned, and according to him, he did not engage in any act of embezzlement or misappropriation of public funds during the Brazil World Cup. You recall he was the Minister for Youth and Sports at the time we went to play the World Cup in Brazil, and he says he rendered full account of his stewardship to the relevant authorities with respect to both the funds allocated to the team by government and those that was raised by the ministry from corporate bodies, and that he's saying that he returned more than $4 million from more than the $9 million that was provided to the team for the tournament, and that money was given to government.
So obviously, from what he's saying, the professor must have heard. Is that the case? Well,
exactly what he's saying, that the Prof did not research the topic properly before he made those comments. Even though his name was not mentioned, he thinks that if there's a song that fits you, you know. And that's why he's responded to the comments.
I see. So beyond the statement by Mr. Yankah, what more do you think is likely to happen? Is he likely to proceed to say...
well, the statement doesn't mention what he would do, except to react to the issues raised in Professor Yankah's speech. There's no indication that he's going to go to court or meet him personally or complain to anybody at all.
So he sought to clear the air?
Yeah, just clear the air.
Okay, all right. Fred Smith, thank you very much for that. Fred Smith is my colleague here at Joy News. Government has denied issuing a directive for students in traditional halls in the various tertiary institutions to bear the cost of their utilities. Now, reports have been rife about students having to pay their own utility bills from next academic year, a move the students have vowed to resist. Addressing students at the third edition of Campus Connect at the Accra Polytechnic yesterday, Deputy Education Minister Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa appealed for calm among the student body, saying what is being bandied about as a directive is merely a suggestion.
The government has not taken a decision to impose a cost-sharing arrangement on utilities as at now, as was proposed at UPSA on the 25th of March. Cabinet is yet to consider the UPSA declaration, so there is no basis for agitation at this point. It is important and healthy for there to be a national debate on the UPSA declaration and for positions to be put out, but it is important that at this point in time there has to be calm, there shouldn't be threats, there's no need for agitation, there's no need for demonstration, because no final decision has been taken as at yet. And as my minister said, when government takes a decision, government will formally and officially communicate to the institutions.
Deputy Communication Minister Felix Kwatio-Fosu at the same event said government will soon transform the Public Works and Maintenance Department into a modern business process outsourcing center. This, he says, will create some 10,000 jobs.
Now, one of the key things we are doing is what we call the Business Process Outsourcing Center. Now, those of you who are familiar with the Kwame Nkrumah Circle, where a new interchange is coming up, the VIP station, where most of you board vehicles for intercity transport. Just behind it, there is a disused yard that used to belong to the Public Works Department. Now, the Ministry of Communications, in conjunction with other partners, is spending some $8 million to convert that disused yard into a modern business process outsourcing center. Now, the objective is to allow for optimal use and deployment of ICT in business processing. These days, if you go to countries like India and Singapore and China, and even in the United States, BPOs are important facets of their economy. We in Ghana are inclined to do same. Now, this business process outsourcing center will provide grade A facilities for plug-in and play options for businesses so that they can outsource non-core aspects of their business. The most critical component of this whole project, which should be of interest to you, is that it is going to provide job opportunities for 10,000 Ghanaian youth. So those of you who are currently studying ICT-based courses do have hope that in the not too distant future, you will have opportunity to work at a place like this that makes use of the skills that you would have acquired in ICT.
You're still watching News Desk here on Joy News. Don't go away.